Hi guys, this is Football Unspoken. I'm Josh. This is Rob, and we're here to talk about all football topics the mainstream media do not. So, Rob, I've got an interesting topic today as usual, but before we get into that, I'm going to ask you a question. I don't know what's wrong with me that I always ask you metrics related questions. So, this week, I want you to guess in. In the billions, how much money have Chelsea and Man City spent individually in the last 20 years?
In the last 20 years, billions. Oh my. Also,
How
you're
much do you
such
think
a
they've
stats man,
spent?
it's bad. Uh,
Such a what?
um, it's such a stats man. You love these random stats. It's quite funny. The data and the metrics.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Okay, I'll go with Chelsea first because I feel like they surely have to spend more because Abramovich came in what 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
I think they've spent half a billion in the last season and a half. So, let's go. I'm gonna go 3 billion from
Okay. And
Chelsea,
for Man City,
and
what you going for
Man
Man
City. I'm
City?
gonna go 2.1 billion.
Your Man City one was damn good. I think it's surprisingly low for Chelsea. It's something like I think it's 2.4 billion, and then Man City's
Okay,
2.3. So you were very close in Man City. So the pretty good going on that, to be fair.
that's
Anyway, that kind
kind
of
of
yeah, yeah. It
yeah.
kind of the question segues us into the actual topic for this week, which my question ultimately is: so the Premier League clearly has way more money in it now than it ever did before, in terms of how much players earn, even how much the managers and the staff earn, and the prize pools for TV money. My question is, if no Abramoviches, no Man City owners came into the Premier League, so it was all clubs owned by either fans or just people who had passion for the club, maybe like the Brighton owners, for example, would the money in the Premier League
Mhm.
have pretty much skyrocketed regardless? I understand it wouldn't have gone up as much as it has, but would the kind of huge rises in salaries and TV deals and whatever have skyrocketed anyway? What do you think of that?
Oh, that's definitely very interesting. I'm gonna go yes. My uneducated, unresearched answer is
Yeah.
gonna be yes. And the reason I think that I'm not gonna say it would have skyrocketed and reached the same proportion because you probably would have struggled to like break the Galacticos and the Barcelonas, so I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have like skyrocketed as much. But I just sit there and I go, realistically, the Premier League, even back in the 2000 and 2003 era, were it was still one of the best leagues in the world. It was one of the
Yeah.
best two leagues in the world, and it's become the best league in the world. Yes, because of the money, but it's also because it's advertised itself well. Because that was the whole thing. The
Yeah.
Premier League came about because of the advertising they could kind of do, and they rebranded from the first division to the Premier League, and then through that rebranding, they managed to reach out to the rest of Europe, which already has their own leagues, and then also capitalize on the African market. So many
Yeah.
African teams, and I think all of that would have happened with or without the Russian oligarchs and you might not have cracked the Middle East, but you still would have had this global phenomenon that I don't think La Liga and the Bundesliga and even the Liga, and I don't think they
Yeah.
have that kind of pull internationally that the Premier League did. So yes, I still think like the earnings that you can make in the Premier League still would have skyrocketed, and that would have caused the kind of transfer fees that you kind of see in because people can still afford it. You might not have the same level, but it would still be
Yeah.
a similar level of skyrocketing, in my opinion.
Yeah, so it was interesting doing research on the topic, just seeing that I can't remember the percentages off the top of my head, but basically, even when you look at the money invested in the Premier League, the rate at which salaries and transfer fees have increased they've grown at a faster rate than the money that's been invested in the league year on year. So that sort of indicates what you're saying, is that if you took that money away, there still would have been a growth that was faster in trajectory than maybe like you would have expected from the Premier League. Something that I was also thinking about, became aware of, is back, what year was it when Van Persie moved from Arsenal to Man United? I think it was 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. Anyway, my
Yeah,
point
somewhere
about
around
that was he had 1 year left on his contract. Now that's a goal scorer. That's like a 30 goal a season striker. Cool, 1 year left on his contract. But how much are you paying now in the Premier League for a 30 goal a season striker, even with 1 year left on his contract? Surely like 60, 70 million, I'd say. He was 30 at the time, 29, 30. So anyway, the
there.
point was he moved at that point for 24 million, which seems like absolute peanuts, um, like in today's market. So yeah, that was kind of, maybe it's not a controversial take. It was just interesting to maybe discuss whether you actually felt there was any way that the league wouldn't have grown as much as it did if the money wasn't available.
Well, I think in terms of if the money wasn't available, I don't know, because you look back, and I'm going to go way back, but you look back in the '90s, and the world record transfer fee was in the Premier League. It was Alan Shearer
Yeah,
from Blackburn to Newcastle, and
yeah,
that was about £12 million. You look at that now, you're like, that's nothing. But at the time, I think if you adjust, I think it ended up being like, I was speaking about it a couple of years ago, but I think it was the equivalent of 60 million for Alan Shearer or something like that.
okay.
So I think even before um, the international market, you know, your Russian oligarchs and your Saudi Arabias and your
Yeah.
Qatars realized the value of the Premier League.
Mm-hmm.
I still think there was an understanding of the money that was involved in football. Um,
Yeah,
and the one thing I will say is that I don't think that it's necessarily even I don't think the Premier League's to blame for the state of the kind of uh, transfer fees and the money in European football, because
yeah,
there's this idea that um all these European teams need to be um, spending all this money to make up for to make up for the difference in income between the Premier League and the rest of Europe. But I don't agree, because I just rate youngsters who come through. It's seen in the fact that Germany have won a World Cup. Spain has won a World Cup. Portugal's won a Euros, and England hasn't come close to any of that. And you sit
yeah,
there, and it's like, realistically, if players wanted to, if you had the ability to just keep players there, it would help. And that's obviously a money issue. I do understand that, but at the same time, you've got teams like PSG, Barcelona, and Real Madrid. They were the ones who first started paying obscene amount of money.
yeah,
And like you look at Kylian Mbappe to PSG, it was just stupid money.
yeah,
And I think Paul Pogba was probably the first instance of it. But I look at it and I go, if you were Barcelona, Real Madrid, PSG, you sit there and you go, I'm not paying that money. That's just not going to happen. I'll go
yeah,
get someone else. Like go to
yeah,
Brazilian leagues. So I pull a football manager.
yeah,
Go get
yeah,
some Brazilian bloke from flamenco. Um,
yeah,
and I think English Premier League would have grown either way, but I don't think they're to blame solely for the state of play with the transfers. So because
yeah. Fair enough.
there was always going to be money in football.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks, Rob. I mean, we pretty much agreed on everything, so it wasn't too much of a debate. But I think it would be interesting to hear what some of the viewers think, if anyone feels that maybe there would have been money available anyway, or the money would have actually dried up without a consistent growth throughout the years. So we'd love to hear what you guys think. And that'll be all from this week's episode of the Football Unspoken podcast. Looking forward to seeing you guys next week, and Rob included.